Maybe I will edit the start out there because it does spoil it. I start off with my Dragonite versus his Shuckle. Of course, it's pretty obvious that this is not going to last long on either side because the Shuckle is going to power down his offenses while he just keeps on buffing himself. And the counter from the very tanky Blissey, he's spec'd into defense on that. I think he's going to switch out, so I go for the Ice Punch, but he doesn't. And then he does. I should have just gone for the Drain Punch anyway with the Shuckle. I switch into Chansey hoping to do a Toxic on him. It doesn't land. He switches into Blissey, who's got Natural Cure when she switches out, which she does. That's going to end up doing nothing. And I anticipate him staying in, which is not what ends up happening. He brings out his Genesect, which does a ton of damage with his U-turn. Dusknoir finishes me off with the priority Shadow Sneak. I bring out Klefki to do my own priority. Unfortunately, he does have Earthquake on this Dusknoir, so I go for the Swagger, hoping to get lucky on the Confusion proc, and that's what happens. Klefki does have the Citrus Berry. That's so that I can use Thief. Unfortunately, he consumes his berry at the same time, which means I can't actually get that off. I go for a Play Rough. At this point, Jikkuryuu doesn't know what type Play Rough is, so I think he's having a hard time with it. I steal a berry off of that Genesect. It is not useful at all, and I don't know what his plan was for that berry. He does not really have a plan to deal with this guy. You're going to see him go through a lot of opponents here. Nearly like the majority of the team. And that's, again, because Klefki does rock that Prankster for priority status moves. I finally do switch out. Scissor will, of course, get neutral damage on the Earthquake. The playback is a little off here. That's actually Mega Scissor there. Buffing up with Swords Dance for boosted bullet punches. And that's going to bring down most of the rest of his team. He's got Gardevoir, Mega Gardevoir, weak to metal or steel. Also Kyurem with the ice type, weak to steel. And then I come back into Klefki and get more crazy lucky with Confusion, which pretty much seals the first battle. Of course, then we get into Klefki versus Shuckle, and this goes nowhere for the longest time. I am going to spare you a few turns of this. It takes me a while to realize that this is contrary Shuckle and that he's actually boosting his defense. And once I do, I'm going to switch into Chansey for the Toxic. And he has no attacks on the Shuckle, which is kind of a crazy set to run, but there you have it. If I had anyone with Taunt, this would be over. Seismic Toss is also very good against Shuckle. And that does it. Moving on to the second round, and I'm probably also going to do an edit here if I can figure that out. Starts with his Kyurem. I start with my Scissor. Run a Swords Dance. He Dragon Tails me out. Freeze Shock I'm not familiar with. I don't actually have XY, and that hurts Chansey quite a bit in addition to the paralysis. So I come in with Dragonite again. A poor prediction on my part, but it works out. There's no way I'm going to survive against the Gardevoir, so I switch out. Moonblast does a surprising amount against Scissor, but there's the Mega Evolution again. He gets slept by Hypnosis there, and that's going to have me under for a few turns. And there's the Power Split. I stayed in so that I could get that Roost. He lands a Sticky Web, sets up all of his hazards, and switches to Genesect, which absolutely walls Scissor, and I'm dumb here, so I stay in for the Flamethrower. Conkeldurr, on the other hand, is a beast and is going to take out a large portion of his team in this battle and the next. Not to spoil anything, but yeah, there's 3 battles here, so yeah, I'm gonna lose this one. Trick puts a Choice Scarf on Dusknoir. He goes for the Curse. Of course, I have no reason to stay in at this point, but I do have Volt Switch, so I get a little bit of damage on the switch, in addition to being able to scout his Blissey. And again, he's going for the counter. Conkeldurr takes out Blissey in one hit, despite the defensive EVs. Power Split's no good for Conkeldurr. He switches out. Dragonite goes for the... Oh no, he just attacks regularly because he can't do anything against the priority move there. He does have Extreme Speed. Normal type is no good against Dusknoir. Klefki goes for the Swagger. At this point, I really start to come out behind here because the Confusion just never procs against this Gardevoir, and she's able to do a lot of wishing. That switch there was a bad play. Of course I was going to play rough. And the Moonblast, even though it's got low effectiveness against Klefki, is enough to break that substitute. This is physically bulky Klefki, not specially. And I'm running Thief, which, I thought might be able to steal the Gardevoirite, but you can't actually do that. It's one of those, form-changing items can't actually be stolen to change the form back. And this is where the battle slips away from me. Because of that Confusion never going off, and she's able to get off so many wishes. But, I continue being hopeful here. And I believe it's at this point that I switch out. No, I am in it for the long haul here, but he does end up taking me down. Gardevoir is surprisingly bulky. A Hydro Pump only takes down, a little less than half there, and I go for the Will-O-Wisp just for the residual damage, even though it's not going to make the difference here. And he switches into Shuckle. Shuckle Power Splits, and after a few more rounds of this, I forfeit. And it'll be pretty obvious why here. Against that Shell Smash, I won't even be able to outdamage his leftovers. And once he switches back into Gardevoir, I see where this is going. He's going to Power Split again if I don't do anything to stop it, which means that basically I have no power left on that Conkeldurr, and that's where I lose the game. Going on to round 3 here in just a second. Okay, round 3, I start off with Rotom. He surprises me by starting off with Securum, and he Dragon Tails me out where I get the burn on him, and the burn is just absolutely going to shut him down, even if I didn't one-hit him with the Drain Punch. Now he knows that I can one-shot his Blissey with my Conkeldurr, so he's not going to try that again. Toxic lands on Shuckle. Shuckle actually has no way to deal with that outside of getting wishes past. So I switch into Dragonite. And this is where he actually springs the surprise. But we will see that coming up in a bit. He does land a Power Split, which is going to be bad news for me. So a few Dragon Dances later, he's hit with the super effective Moonblast, and that triggers the weakness policy, bumping him up to 3.5 times attack, which is not enough because of that Power Split. Otherwise, he would have swept the entire enemy team. Not a doubt in my mind. Anyway, he goes back to the Shuckle. I switch to Chansey so that Power Split doesn't do anything, even though he has no attacking moves. Whatever. The Seismic Toss is still worthwhile here. And he switches out to his own Blissey. So, staying in doesn't do anything for me here. I do a Wish, thinking that he's going to switch out on his own Wish. I do Seismic Toss. That's not what happens. So I switch into Scissor and try to go for some Sword Stances here. And he doesn't predict that, so he goes for a Toxic, which does not land. Another Sword Stance, and the Wish comes true, but at triple attack, Bullet Punch, super effective, does knock him all the way out. Dusknoir almost gets one-shotted by that. He ends up killing himself with the Curse, which means that I'm going to U-turn out on my next turn. With Genesect out there, though, he's faster than I am, so especially with the sticky web slowing me down, so I don't get the U-turn off. Instead, I do get a Drain Punch for crazy damage. This Conkeldurr is running Iron Fist and Expert Belt, meaning, on top of his 140 base damage, he just has a stupid amount of offense. And that does it for the round 3. Thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll see you in my next match.